Hi, it's me. I'm going to be trying to keep my voice down here, so I'm trying not to attract any attention. So I hope you guys can hear me. And I'm also getting echo in my mic, which is it's like the night floaters or unpleasant people are looking over my shoulders. It's kind of creeping me out. But my whole visit here has creeped me out. As if you've been following this, know that I've been in Jokeville doing research into the origins of the night floaters. I'm not going to tell you where I'm sending this from, just that it's a public place. You can probably hear the noise in the background. And once this is sent, I'm gone, if not earlier. If you don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm getting some comments that suggest people have no idea what I'm talking about, that they don't know what a night floater is, here is a definition. A night floater or floaters are beings able to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies. The heads then being able to fly or float at will, or bob through the air like a buoy bobbing on a body of water. They fly through the night to feed on the flesh, the blood, and the sanity of their victims, and have been victimizing me since I was about 8 years old. Sorry, there's some people coming around. I'm just checking out to see who they are. Oh yeah, it's nothing to worry about. I'm also been trying to find out some more about a potential night floater named Albert or Ab Ireton. I mentioned him in one of my last broadcasts, and I found an article by an ethnologist or an ethnic studies guy. As I say, I'm trying to keep my voice down. There's people kind of almost on top of me. Anyways, this ethnic studies guy from the University of Toronto actually interviewed him and described him as an elderly wharf rat. So Ireton related the following information, and I quote, "Back in them olden days, there was a native conjurer named Wendat, who could do some powerful magic, like foretell the future or talk with the spirit gods. Another thing he could do was separate his head from his body in order to travel on the night winds and spy on people. They would bind him hand and foot and lay him inside a tent with just a hole in the top for the head to get out, I suppose. The tent would shake and you'd hear him mumbling inside, but when they lifted the flap, the body was there all trussed up, but his head was gone. I seen this for myself when I was just a little gaffer. Then later, the tent would commence shaking again to beat the band, and then Wendat would emerge and tell what he saw. They was a number of them could work the magic, kind of occult-like, and there was some white people initiated into it as well. Not that I know who they are." Yeah, the chuckle was mine. I'm sure he knew who they were. Ireton, of course, was rumored to be able to detach his head from his body, a feat he was said to perform for nefarious purposes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was one on a night floater. But whatever the truth of the rumors, what is known for certain is that Ireton was found dead, minus his head. Now, early settlers might have learned about the floaters from the local First Nations people, and they would have dismissed the idea as superstition until a series of events around the village of Proudfoot's Hollow made them rethink their conclusions. Proudfoot's Hollow was established in 1827 when George Chalmers established both a saw and a grist mill on the 16 at the Dundas Crossing, the current site of Lions Valley Park, a village complete with homes, blacksmiths, and a church and school, as well as a tavern and a still, quickly grew to an establishment of 500 people, a considerable population for that time and place. Chalmers sold his business to John Proudfoot, who gave the hamlet its name. Official histories say the village declined after the coming of the railroad to Oakville in 1855, but folklore tells a different tale. Okay, just hang on a second. I'll be right back. I gotta check something out here. Just one moment. There's somebody over there. Hi, I'm back. I guess it's a false alarm. Anyways, the decline of Proudfoot Hollow has been blamed on other things besides the arrival of the railroad. Here's some possible reasons why it declined. In the early spring of 1838, at a time the countryside was convulsed by the after effects of the rebellion, a girl by the name of Mary Hankey was walking to her home, where she was working as a servant, after visiting her parents' farm. As she made her way along the path leading down to the village, a face or head darted from behind the nearby trees. After hypnotizing her with its fiery red eyes, the head began to kiss her face, its lips burning like a flame. The young girl ran from the scene screaming, whilst the head bobbed away in the darkness. Searchers summoned to the scene could find no trace of it. In 1843, an older woman and her pregnant daughter were badly frightened when a hideous human head, shrieking like a banshee, flew at them from out of the darkness as they were returning from a visit to the nearby village of Palermo. The daughter, unfortunately, later miscarried. Later that same year, one Brewster, the village watchman in the hollow, fired upon what he said, in quotes, was a discombobulated head that came flying at him from out of the tombstones in the churchyard, in which it swooped down on him like a night owl. The guard was accused of drinking and later dismissed. But after the watchman's dismissal, his story was given more credence when a white devil's head came plunging out of the darkness to attack the driver of the westbound stagecoach as it neared Palermo. The Jehu nearly lost control and narrowly avoided winding up in the ditch. A few of the passengers suffered minor injuries, but were attended to at the nearby tavern, where the driver, who was generally regarded as a sober and straight walking man, had occasion to medicate himself with several draughts of strong drink. Yeah, I don't doubt it, and I know the feeling too. A number of similar reports caused a state of near panic to break out among the small and often isolated villages in the area, with armed patrols walking the dark and silent streets. It was only a matter of time before a tragedy occurred. On the unusually balmy night of January 3rd, 1845, a former soldier named William Smith saw a white shape which appeared to be floating amongst the tombstones of the churchyard in the hollow. Imagining it to be a floating object or head, he yelled for the apparition to halt. When it failed to do so, he fired a load of buckshot at it, at which point the pale orb vanished from sight. Taking a dark lantern, the armed men found the corpse of Robert Stevenson, a local farmhand who had been among the search party but who had wandered off on his own. Smith was charged with his death and stood trial at the assizes, but was acquitted, receiving a tongue lashing from Justice Moody on the folly of armed citizens taking the law in their own hands in the manner of, and here I quote, "the benighted republic to the south of us." But the death of Robert Stevens was nothing compared to the sensation caused by the discovery of a headless body in early July of 1847 on the banks of the 16 north of the hollow. The body, which was apparently naked, was that of a male lying on its back among the shrubbery. It was discovered by some women out berry picking. What was disturbing to the constabulary in those pre-forensic days, they just couldn't call on CSSI to help them, was the condition of the corpse, which appeared to be asleep rather than dead. There were no obvious signs of decapitation, but a gaping hole, which nevertheless did not appear to be a fresh wound, at the end of the neck. A night floater? The body was never identified, but it was noted that a farmhand, a slovenly individual named Painter, had disappeared. I wonder what happened to his head. Wait a minute, there's somebody lingering over there in the doorway. I'm just gonna pretend I'm looking at my phone here, doing something else. I guess they're just looking at books. It's okay. Anyways, various rumors of flying heads or devils and of headless bodies were whispered at isolated firesides throughout the 19th century, and no doubt a number of pranks and practical jokes added to the mystery and consternation. Another popular legend dates to the time of the Fenian troubles. The story goes something like this. A member of the militia was on sentry duty along the Dundas Road when he saw something approaching him through the thick darkness of the moonless night. I need a drink. He demanded that his assailant identify himself, only to have, quote, the head of Beelzebub come flying out of the murk to smite him in the face. The soldier struck the head with his fists and then tried to bat it with his rifle, but it flew off into the woods at tremendous speed and vanished from sight. The sentry never had a chance to fire his weapon. A satanic connection, and this is really interesting, a satanic connection is suggested by the incident described as the Devil's Kisses. On the night of July 8th, 9th, 1875, Halton County was threatened by thunderstorms, which filled the night air with both electricity and anticipation. Witnesses in a number of communities, including Oakville, Bronte, and Palermo, reported terrifying encounters with decapitated heads, which harassed them, sometimes groups of them, as they made their way down the darkened country roads, nipping, biting, and even kissing them. Others, especially young women, reported floating heads which would hang outside their bedroom windows and even press their lips against the glass. Shades of that old wharf rat, Ab Ireton. Anyways, 9 months later, the county experienced an epidemic of unwed pregnancies. I wonder how many descendants of those unwed pregnancies are there out there. Unwed and unwanted. And I wonder how many of them are or became floaters. Anyways, I found all these accounts by scanning the book in the local history collection, but I haven't found any newer stuff, like the 20th century, yet, but I'll try. Wait a sec. Yeah, okay, it's time to go. I'm going to leave this town, period. This place is getting to be a little too hot for me. But please excuse me for not telling you where I'm headed. I'll be in touch when I can. If I can. If. They say you can't go home again. They're right.